Hey guys, comment your questions below. Your question could be featured in the next video.
I'm picking up the stick. I'm not itchy right now.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Candid Conversations in our relationship series where you ask us questions and we try our best to answer them. Today, it's just me and this guy.
Dang, you're so loud.
I'm a loud person.
Yelling in my ear.
Oh my gosh. So let's get started. What do you do when you feel like your spouse constantly blames you for their own bad reactions?
I found it really helpful to blame them back.
Oh
Like,
my
just
god.
blame them right back.
True.
That's what she does with me. I learned it from her. What are some times that you've blamed me? Just so that it's clear that we all
Let's
do
see.
this.
I blame him for everything. If I'm having a bad day, it must be his fault. If I trip, it must be his fault.
Remember we were at the gas station? She opened the car door and the wind is blowing.
It was a very windy day.
She opens the car door and lets it go. The wind catches it and it flies forward and just hits the pole that's at the gas station. Just goes boom like that and bends the door. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, why is it doing that? She started blaming the door and the wind. It was blaming these, like, these things are wrong. There's something wrong with them. Why are they doing that? And
First of all, it's supposed to catch on its own. It's not supposed to fly that far back. That's why I was like, what's wrong with the door? It's supposed to catch on its own.
It's always gone that far, babe. It's always gone that far.
So as you can see, I am queen of actually not just blaming him, but blaming inanimate objects for being the culprit of why things went wrong.
I think that a lot of times we blame another person for things because we're consumed with our own perspective. We only see things from our angle, whereas if we would see something, if we would see it from the other person's angle, we would get insight into maybe why they're not doing exactly what we want them to do, or what we perceive to be the right thing to do.
It's such a common problem, and if not dealt with, can lead to like serious like marital problems or relational problems, not just in marriage. Like, if you're constantly blaming them for something that's like not even their fault,
Yeah.
you're gonna leave, or you're gonna be really angry and put up walls and be like, I'm not gonna be vulnerable with you anymore.
It's a form of accusation, a form of attacking. So when you're constantly pushing somebody down, or feeling like you're getting pushed down, those walls, the barriers,
Yeah.
all of that begins to come up, and it'll destroy your
Yeah.
relationship.
For most of me and CJ's relationship, I have struggled with jealousy. And when we first got together, it was like full blast, 110%. I gave it my all to be jealous of CJ. I just got my life turned around from like being a drug addict and like sleeping around with guys, like totally living crazy. Then all of a sudden, I'm in this really good relationship with him. Of course, I brought all of my baggage and projected on him. So like, it was like, who's that girl? I don't care if she has a beard. Why are you talking to her? You want to be with her? You know, I mean, just craziness. But I remember that as we got into our relationship, like, you know, let's say 3 years passed, 5 years passed, I remember CJ actually telling me, like, you know, the more that you blame me for something that I'm not even doing, it makes me start thinking that I'm doing what you're accusing me of.
I started almost coming into agreement with it because it's stated so much that this is what you're doing or this is who you are. You can easily begin to identify with that very accusation.
With the blame or accusation. So, I don't know, that just kind of popped in my head. That's actually like a really good example of like the effects of constantly blaming someone for something that's not their fault. Is that they can actually assume the identity of that lie or that accusation.
You never have to go to a place to where you're coming underneath their oppression and their accusation. You never have to live there. Just because they have a bad reaction doesn't mean that you have to identify with that. You have to be able to stay above it and see truth, and then from that you can begin to take action to heal your relationship. First action that you take is that you find any area that they're right. Meaning, if you're accusing me of something, I can look at what you're saying and go, did I aid in that in any way? Like maybe there's only 10% truth. I can grab that little bit and say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can find that little area that goes, okay, I can improve in an area.
Yeah.
So let me find that little area and go, hey, this part is true. I'm not going to identify with everything you're saying, but this little part is true, and I'm sorry. And
For
I actually
example, for
Missed.
For example, my culture is very cold and like reserved, and like you don't just like hug everybody. You're not like, that's like very Midwest, you know?
Yeah.
So CJ, when I first met him, was just totally touchy and like, how are you doing? Oh, come here. Are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. He was like super touchy and feely, which isn't bad necessarily, but there were a few times I was like, maybe you shouldn't do that, like in this situation, in this context. And you were like, you know what, you're right. I should probably pull back.
I was very interactive with people. I loved hanging out with people. I loved talking to them.
Interactive.
And touch is like part of my love language. And so I was constantly, hey, how you doing, slug guy, whatever it is, hey. And so I realized what she was pointing out, that now being married, I needed to dial that back a little bit, because I was in an area that could be mistaken wrong by other women, and I needed to dial that back. So there was an aspect that I needed to grow in. So finding that area, apologizing, and seeing the place that you can improve is good. And the second thing you do is forgive them for wronging you.
Which forgiveness doesn't mean that now it's okay and it's justified and we're just going to put a little Band-Aid on it and now we're cool.
Forgiveness at the end of the day is putting it in the hands of the Lord. Going, you know what? It's not right what happened. So I'm going to put it into your hands, and I'm going to ask the Lord to forgive you, and I'm going to forgive you. We're not saying that it's right, but we're not going to hold on to it and allow it to create bitterness or more accusations or
more anger,
more tension,
or more division.
Maybe I need to put up boundaries, but I don't want to live in that anger and be defiled, because that's another form.
And like tormented.
Yeah, being tormented. That's another form of coming under that accusation.
And just so you know, forgiveness never feels good on the front end. I remember there were some times recently where I was just like, F you. No, I am not going to forgive you. You are wrong. But let me tell you, 2 hours, man, I don't know. Maybe I don't even know if I made that long. I think an hour was my max of holding on to like anger and like judgment over his head. Like, how dare you treat me like that? Because I was physically exhausted by the end of it. We always have this.
It consumes your mind.
It really does. And it takes so much effort to like keep that like rage going. I'm just too lazy at the end of the day. I just don't have I need to sleep more to be angry more, and I'm not sleeping enough. But something that's really funny is that me and CJ, it'll be like an hour and a half, we'll walk around and we'll be like,
we're trying to like hold in our anger, but
we can't. We always end up smiling and go, I'm sorry. But I will say though,
I'm a jerk.
I'm a jerk too. I'm sorry. Okay, let's work this out. But I will say though, if you just make that leap of faith and you just go, I forgive this a-hole for doing X, Y, and Z to me, but really, I forgive them. You do it in the front end as an act of faith. It actually really does help to like move the process on. So forgiveness is number 2. That's really good. On to number 3. This is a technique that CJ uses with me all the time. And children.
Trying to tell somebody where they're off when they're already reacting and they're in a bad place and they're angry and they're already reacting negatively. Trying to tell them that they're off doesn't work at all.
No.
You can't get through. You can't there are certain times where you might have just real clarity and real truth to look at somebody and go, this is how you're acting. And it's like light hits them and they're like, oh, wow, okay, you're right. That does happen, but that's rare.
It is really rare.
For the most part, you cannot get through to somebody when
because they can't hear you.
No, they're angry. Their emotions are coming through it. And so rather than telling them, they have to come to their own conclusion of it. And the easiest way to do that is to ask questions. Is to go back through the process and be like, oh, okay, well, what could I have done better? How is what I did causing you to act like this?
Or when have I ever done this? Ever?
Yeah, like when she would be, you would be accusing me when you were jealous and you're like, you just want to be with these women, what? And I'd be like, when have I ever done anything that's close to what you're accusing me of right now? And the emotions that you're giving, she'd be like, I don't know, but that's how I feel. Well, okay, that's how you feel, but have I ever done that? And allowing them to come to the conclusion as opposed to just telling them will do wonders, because a lot of times if it isn't your fault,
It'll like de-escalate everything.
it totally does, because they all of a sudden they have to come face to face with, they don't have an argument.
This actually works so well with children.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
we probably use this technique of like de-escalating like issues like 10 times a day with all the emotional breakdowns with our kids. And it always ends with lots of laughter and lots of, wow, I was tripping for no reason. Oh, I think I was just hungry. Also, give it space. I
Yes.
think a lot of
Yes.
times, especially as women, or I don't know, as me, as a woman, my personality, if there's a problem, I want to get it settled right now. He will be in like the thick of like emotion and rage and anger, but I'll be like, babe, what's wrong with you? Let's talk this out right now. You know, my questions that are unhelpful are, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting like
Why
this?
are you doing this? Why are you acting like
What's
this?
wrong with you? Don't ask those questions. Now I know. Okay, give him some space. I'm still not very good because I'll like knock on the door and he'll be like, I don't want to talk to you yet. 10 minutes later, knock, knock, knock. Babe.
Like a minute later, that's you. I'm like, if you don't give me some space, woman, give me some space.
So give each other some space. Something that I've learned over the years is to just bite my tongue. I could be thinking like a thousand miles a minute of like crazy in my head, of like every way I could stab him with my words. It's just like, take that, take that. I've learned that if I will just bite my tongue and, you know, exercise a little bit of self-control, it makes the makeup process way easier and way better, because a lot of the things I want to say are like completely untrue and they're like totally like hateful. Just shut your mouth. Shut it. Shut your mouth. It like, you will actually be thankful later on, because I mean, the spewing, oh, it doesn't help anyone walk away for one, and it doesn't help things like de-escalate fast.
I actually saw a picture that somebody drew. I thought was amazing. It was sounds weird, but it was an alligator on a ladder, and his mouth was between, you know, two segments of the ladder. It was all the way through. The statement on the picture was, a lot of times we feel like a lot of things are holding us back, when in reality it's our own mouth. A lot of times our mouth, just learning to shut it, having that self-control and the ability to rein in our speech, stop it for a little bit, walk away, to gather ourselves, is sometimes one of the most powerful things we can do.
And then the last thing of all is to communicate. I think being able to have like a safe space to openly communicate how you feel, for the other person to explain how they feel, and for there to be like, you to really come into that conversation being open to listen. Like CJ said in the beginning, not being closed off to someone else's perspective or someone else's like, you know, side of the story, and like being sucked up in your own world. It really does take relationships. It really takes humility and like serving someone else and serving someone else's interests other than your own. And it's really hard, because I'm selfish.
We all are.
I want things my way.
And
all the
I
time.
want things my way, and we're in a relationship together.
Yeah, so we have to work that out. So communication is really cool. Really cool.
Communication's like cool.
Communication is like so cool. Communication is really important, actually. No, it's not just cool. It's like super important if you're not talking to your significant other or to just anyone in friendship, or your kids or your mom or whoever. Like, if you're not like being open and being able to have that exchange, you're not going to have a healthy relationship.
Now, everything that we just said is all on the basis of two people being willing to do this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, there is,
absolutely,
you know, you put forth the effort in this, everything that we've talked about. When you put forth that effort, you know, that's taking care of your end of things.
Yeah.
But if the other person is still unwilling
Yeah.
to come to the table and communicate, even to walk through any of these things, then you need outside help.
Yeah.
Because it's
Absolutely.
not okay to stay in the relationship and only have one side trying to work at the relationship and do some of these things.
Yeah.
If the other person is completely unwilling.
I feel like the blame, what we're talking about, like blame shifting, all of that, and just conflict within relationship, that's normal. And I think
Yeah.
it's actually healthy to be able to have that opportunity to like walk out humility and walk out learning how to grow in love, basically. But if there is one person in the relationship who's unwilling and is constantly lashing out and is like, that can enter into the world of abuse, verbally,
Yes, absolutely.
physically, whatever. And that's where you need to take action and, like CJ said, bringing in outside help, whether it's a counselor, a therapist, someone that you really trust, and then taking the steps from there. That ends it for this question. We really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions of your own, please make sure to comment them below so that we can feature you in an upcoming video. Also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to join the family, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.